You know, it's
Alrighty. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you, everybody. Really glad to have Omar. I always keep asking, do I ask you this before? Do I say
you did,
Omar or
yeah.
Omar?
Whichever you want. As I say,
I
Muslims
like
usually say
Omar.
Umar,
It's
and
like
yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I
Okay.
don't
And
mind. I don't mind. Yeah.
is it like your channel called Omar in it or something? Or is that just
Yeah,
what you put on
it
the
was,
side
but
of it?
I find it a bit cringe now, so I dropped it anyway.
It's funny.
I've not uploaded in a while, but I've just been busy with life and stuff. But I'm hoping to get on more. I've yeah, a bit of background, I guess, if you're asking.
Yeah, go on.
Just I've uploaded loads of crap, and I've found a lot of what I enjoy is talking to people. So I think that's probably where I'm going to try and take the channel.
That's cool. I mean, that's the same with everybody, I think. You just try out different things and you find out what you
Yeah,
really enjoy, you know? So that's
yeah,
cool. So let's just jump into it. I'm an Ahmadi Muslim. Umar is a Sunni Muslim. Technically, I would even call myself a Sunni Muslim because Sunni just means following the example of Prophet Muhammad Sunni, the Sunnat, right? So I'd
yeah.
fit into that category anyway. Some people think Ahmadi Muslims are some completely new thing. I would say we're not. We're just following the Quran. But anyway, this is supposed to be a fairly casual chat. We've
Yeah,
had one live stream before
yeah,
where you picked up some interesting points.
yeah.
For example, you said I was too. I keep saying the word peaceful, but oh, you said passive. That's the one.
Passive, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the other point, and I said this, and then I thought you could correct me how I say it, like in the live stream anyway.
Mm.
You said something like Ahmadi Muslims are. I'm very blunt anyway, so I don't
Sure, yeah,
mind.
yeah,
But
sure.
I think you said something like Ahmadi Muslims are such a tiny minority that they're insignificant. You can
Mm.
reword it in a more polite way if you like.
Well,
I
it
don't
was
really
within the
mind.
context. The context was, I think you were if people want to refer back to it, is the previous video that we did, the four of us. I think the conversation was Sunni Muslims are like, they take a physical stance, fighting basically in jihad and so on. And my point was, even if Ahmadi Muslims took to physical stance, it's you're talking about like less than 1% of Muslims worldwide, so it wouldn't really amount to much necessarily.
Why don't we jump
Because
straight into
you
it?
were criticizing physical, war, basically. Physical war is what you're criticizing. My point was, and I think you're saying it was a positive point you're making on part of Ahmadis that they're not into physical confrontation,
Sure.
or they don't advocate for it whatsoever. And my point was, even if they did, they wouldn't probably achieve much because
So
there's not many of
let's
them, so it's
just
not really an
jump.
option.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
just jump straight into that, I
yeah. Let's
suppose.
go ahead. Okay.
So the bit about like that we were too small to, let's say, fight back. Let's say, I
I mean,
think
it
that's.
was it
I
was a
don't
side
mind.
point. I don't want to dwell on that,
It's
but okay.
oh, okay. We can
Sure,
take it
sure.
all
Go
to
on.
the different directions. But okay,
Yeah,
I'll very give a brief answer, and then you can say if that's interesting. You can move into it. You
yeah,
can,
yeah.
or we can move to another point, right?
Well,
So
just
I
just
would.
clarify for me the physical
Yeah, go on.
side of Ahmadi Islam. Like the sentiment to me was that I took from what you were saying is Sunni Muslims are constantly fighting everyone, and us Ahmadis, we're very peaceful. We live in Israel in peace, basically.
Sure. Okay. So there's
Yeah,
a verse of the Quran. I could probably bring it up. Let me bring it up. Let's have some fun here, right? I didn't make a. I was thinking of bringing this one up, and it basically talks about being humble and if the ignorant address you, say peace. Let me just quickly find. It's nice to have
yeah,
that.
sure.
Ignorant peace was humble. I'm just looking for some keywords to search in the
Yeah,
Quran, and I'll put it on the screen. Let me put it on the screen as I'm getting it, so people are not bored imagining what I'm typing.
yeah. No, it's
Um, so, whoops, what did I just press? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Okay, share. Probably the whole window. Let's share the whole window. That one? Yeah. Okay. Um, so have I found it? I just searched humble, ignorant, when addressed peace. Oh yes, I should have searched that. Okay, so we've got and the servants of the gracious God are those who walk on the earth modestly, and when the ignorant address them, they say peace. So just to give you a flavor of what I would say Islam is really like. Like remember, the name of Islam is peace, so we shouldn't be thinking of having ways of fighting. We'd be like, yeah, the label of the religion says peace. How do we do that as much as possible? So, like I'm in Speaker's Corner, I'm always trying to be super peaceful, and then people are trying to pick fights with me all the time. And I'm saying that's not how Muslims or Prophet Muhammad's example. You call yourself a Sunni Muslim. I would even call myself a Sunni Muslim, and by definition, Sunni.
Sorry,
And he didn't fight
did the
unless he had
Prophet
to. Go on.
right? So he did fight though.
Oh yeah, of course,
So there is
sure.
a time and place for it.
Oh yeah, yeah, there
That's
is.
my
Yeah.
only point. My point
Oh
is not to fight for the sake of it. My point is there is a time and place for it, and it sounded like you were saying otherwise. You really seem to dumb it down into some total super pacifist thing, and that's what I was saying.
no, but I think compared to Sunni Muslims, we are very passive. So Serena and her uncle
My
were very
point was, though,
yeah.
this is exactly my point. Sorry to cut you off. If you weren't passive, it's almost negligible. You're talking like, not negligible, but you're talking about
No,
less than 1% of the Muslim world.
let's talk about that thing. I would say we're more powerful than the Sunni
Mm.
Muslims already.
Oh,
So
really? Okay.
that sounds really weird, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
let me explain. We
I mean,
have the
sure, yeah, go
first,
for it, yeah.
so we're the only people who are like a solid community that's always functioning with one leader, right? And Sunni Muslims are basically individuals,
Oh, no, I
a
don't agree
bunch
with
of
that, no.
individuals.
No.
Yeah. So
Sunni Muslims are not just individuals.
yeah.
You're saying
So
there's no conformity, no group
not
identity.
really. You've got like your individual mosques, and you don't have particular allegiance to your imam in your mosque. Your mosques are not connected to each other.
No, that's not true. I don't know what mosque you've been to.
Go on, tell me how it works. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, if we're talking about the rest of, if if we're saying Ahmadi, Muslim Islam, or, whatever term you want to use, part of the group is like less than 1%. You're left with 99%. Obviously, the Shia as well that make up a percentage much larger than Ahmadis. There are obviously groups within the whole Sunni frame. There are
Let me give
Sunnis
you
are
a
split
picture.
into
Maybe this will.
groups, but there are groups. And you're
Oh,
saying
sure.
there's not.
Let me give you a picture of why I'm
Yeah,
saying what
yeah,
I'm saying. It will kind of
yeah. Sure,
like
sure,
give
sure.
it in concrete form. So Ahmadi Muslims got the first mosque in London. They've got
Yeah,
the biggest mosque in London, even though we're really small in numbers, right?
yeah.
So
When
I've
when
got
was
like
that? When was that developed?
the first mosque, I think, in 1924, made in 1924.
Yeah,
And the biggest mosque is in Morden, London. It's called the Baitul Fatu Mosque. I actually gave a little, because you mentioned some things that we might be able to discuss. So
sure. Yeah.
I gave a little document in the description, but where there's lots of links to, you can find the first mosque, the biggest mosque, the websites
Okay.
to
Yeah.
them, where they are, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I could give you endless examples of how Ahmadi Muslims are managing to get together where all the Sunni Muslims are not able to do. So, for
Okay.
example, in my area, when I was living in London, we were organizing street parties
Yeah.
for the whole community, like including non-Muslims. We were the only people
Yeah.
doing stuff like that. You won't see the level of organization and unity that we have because we have a Khalifa. I mean, do you know about that idea that we've got a Khalifa?
Yeah.
We've
I have
got
a brief idea,
one,
general
one
idea.
leader. Yeah,
You have
so we've
one
got
leader.
one
Yeah.
international leader, and he says, "Do this." Everybody does that. If he goes, do that. Everybody does that sort of thing.
Okay.
It's a unified. Where if we wanted to, we could get together, be a very powerful army because we're the most unified amongst the Sunni Muslims. Who would be the leader?
I'm not
I don't want to
sure
get bogged
what your
down into
point is
it.
here, to be honest.
My point is that if
Yeah.
you've got a unified leader, let's say you want an army, right? The Ahmadis
Yeah.
could get an army together very easily because
Okay.
we're constantly in touch. Like when I'm in London, I mean, even in Jordan, I know loads of people's numbers and whatever, right? I'm in contact with the Ahmadi
So
Muslims,
your
but
point is Ahmadis, they're a tight knit community.
yeah, but like when you said we're insignificant, I demonstrated that we're more
I'm talking
significant
war
than.
specifically.
Yeah, I'm demonstrated that we're more
Yeah.
significant, like in terms of what we're able to do. We
Mm.
can get things done because we're a very close, organized, tiny community. We make our own mosques a lot more than Sunni Muslims have to because they don't like. Okay, do you have a central system where you put your Islamic funds that you can trust to build mosques?
There's plenty of mosques. So I'm in Manchester in the UK.
Yeah.
There's plenty of mosques that share a space and collect and fund mutually. Yeah,
Sure. Okay. So
but
like,
they're not part of the Sunni body.
yeah.
But these Sunni bodies like 80%, and again you're talking about less than 1% with Ahmadis. So yeah, with so many people, you're not going to find it wouldn't even be practical to have a uh, you know uh,
Sure. So I'm just
one
want
bank account for
right. So we're
well
not
over a
really
billion people.
sure. So we're not really comparing Ahmadi Muslims to all the Sunni
Mm,
Muslims because they don't have
okay.
that one massive group. So then you have to question. I want you to think
Mm,
about. I don't. As I
sure.
said,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be like chilled and this kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
just
chill as well. Sorry if my
yeah.
demeanor seems
No, no, no.
otherwise.
That's all right.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no.
I'm
I'm
just
what I'm trying
engaged.
to.
I'm just engaged.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I'm not saying you are. I'm trying to say like I'm not
Okay.
trying to like push a point too much. I'm just saying, look,
Go for it though. I don't mind.
think about it. That in terms of organization,
Yeah.
even if we're smaller overall, it's not Ahmadis. If you're comparing like we're like, it's not Ahmadis
Mm,
versus all of Sunni Muslims because not all of
okay.
Sunni Muslims are together. They're lots of different groups amongst themselves. They don't have one financial system where they can collect funds to buy mosques and stuff. Like, how much have you spent to the mosque you're in
Mm,
that you regularly go to? Did you pay? Did
mm.
you pay to make that mosque?
No, I mean it was established a long time ago.
Right. Okay. Which mosque do you remember ever being paying towards? Yeah, paying.
Personally,
Yeah.
I've donated to the mosque towards a mosque. Generally, these mosques have already been built though. I'm
Sure.
25, so I've not grown and with
No,
a new
what I'm
mosque.
saying is my suspicion is that
Yeah,
because they don't have Sunni Muslims don't have, and this is just being logical, and I could
sure.
be
Yeah,
wrong,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because Sunni Muslims don't have a central system where they can pay into for all sorts of things like building mosques. I bet
yeah.
that they're getting money from the British government to get
No,
to
I
make
think
them.
you're absolutely wrong there. My
Yeah.
point is, the Sunni Muslims, there are different groups, and it's also natural, just given the geographics and the sheer this yeah, we're talking about arguably like a quarter of the world, right?
Hmm.
There's no central system. But the communities I grew up in, there's there's groups, for example, that are run by several mosques and members for funerals. So every time a Sunni Muslim dies,
Hmm.
everyone will contribute, say, £3 that goes into a pot. When you die, everyone will contribute £3, and your £6,000 whatever burial is covered. So there's an example of a Sunni group working together financially. You're not
That's
going
good.
to find, over a billion people dealing with in one. It's just not practical what you're saying. What you're saying works because you're talking about a very small community. You're
Okay.
talking
I
about a
mean,
city
okay.
and a council, really. Like, a city and a council. You can't
Hmm.
run the whole of China under a very small organization. You need to branch out. You know
Hmm.
that's how the world works. That's how. Do you disagree with that?
So we're an international community. We do
Yeah,
all sorts of international events all the
sure. Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So we're not really like insignificantly small and we're
You keep on
united.
pressing on that word. Did it upset you?
I don't know. No, it doesn't. I'm just saying.
You
You
keep
made
on
a
mentioning the
point.
word
That's what we're
insignificant.
talking about. That's what we're
But
talking about.
I was when I said
Significant.
it,
Or,
I was
yeah.
talking specifically
Yeah.
about war.
Hmm.
But you keep mentioning that, so the term, that the insignificant term. So I'm just
Okay.
wondering if I upset you. If I upset you, I
No,
apologize. It's not what I meant.
no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's I see as Ahmadi Muslims the revival of true Islam. So
Okay.
and behind God. So I'm not worried either way whatever anybody thinks.
Sure.
So I don't get upset. You should see I get lots of real abuse in Speakers Corner and
Yeah.
other places, and actually
Yeah.
on live streams I encourage it even. So not worried about it.
Yeah. No worries. It's good.
Okay, so let's kind of Here's I'll ask you a question. What you think about it? So Ahmadi Muslims, what makes us special and important, and the future, let's say, is because one of the signs is that we are the Khalifa. We're the only people with a Khalifa, which means an international spiritual leader. And for people who don't know, because I'm looking at the live chat, we've got a Christian and looks like we've got some sort of Zionist or something. So they might not know
Sort
what
of
a Khalifa
Zionist.
is. What
Yeah.
is it?
Okay.
Here's the real truth. Palestine does not exist. Sounds like Israel does not exist either. Correct name is God's palace. Please do
Right.
accept. Or maybe it's an atheist. Okay, I just read the first line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
So anyway, the point is, I probably don't know what Khalifa is, right? So
Yeah.
Khalifa is supposed to be, all the Muslims are supposed to be led by one Khalifa. That was what happened straight after Prophet Muhammad died. Peace be upon him. So that's supposed to be the proper way. There's supposed to be only one leader for all of them. And we see ourselves as the only people who've got a Khalifa. And so my question is, like, why would God make it so that only we have a Khalifa and everybody else is desperate? There's so many. It's
What does your
natural thing.
Khalifa do? What does he do? Your Caliphate?
So that's a good question. He's in charge.
He's a leader, right? He's basically just a leader that
He's
you
a
follow.
leader, but there's a very detailed infrastructure underneath him. So we have the local organization, which is led by the regional, by the national, and he's the international leader. So he's constantly saying, "You guys do this. This is what you do. This is how you fix this problem." He covers every detail and is supposed to listen. So it's a very practical thing. It's not just a theoretical thing. And also in terms of any disputes about religious ideas, you say, "This is what the Quran says. This is my understanding. This is what goes." So it's
Is that his own
practical.
interpretation, or is he based off? What is he based off?
So Ahmadi Muslims generally have an interpretation starting from who we call the second coming of Jesus, the promised Messiah. It's a short way of saying that. So, but it's when it's not just how we feel it is. It's like, here's logical discussion. I've debated so many people on this kind of stuff, on individual verses of the Quran, and they couldn't give any answers, right? And there's lots of recordings of that. So it's a logical interpretation. Yeah. So it's interpretation that is pretty unique. What do
you need him to interpret the Quran for then? If it's just logic, you can use your own logic as you do in your videos, don't you? What do you need this
it's
leader?
interesting. No, that's a good question. So unfortunately, we like to think human beings are logical. Okay, let me put it this way. I give a
Sounds
logical
like you're about
argument.
to criticize your leader here.
No, not at all.
Okay, go on.
You would like to think human beings are logical.
Generally,
so you would
I think
that I give, but I don't agree. I don't think human beings are logical. They have the potential to be logical, but they're more emotional and they rather follow their emotions. So that's what I have in Speaker's Corner, where I give an argument and they don't have a counter argument and they just get upset. And then, but all I did provide logic. And so it is necessary that all these prophets who come, they give logical arguments, and they basically realign people back to the original teachings of their respective religions, like Jesus did. He said, "Come back to real Judaism." what we're saying is come back to real Islam. And so it's not like a contradiction that we teach logical ideas. It's just that what's happened is Sunni Muslims have gone so far away from
I
those
think you're missing my
logical.
point. Sorry
Oh,
to cut
okay,
you
go
off.
on, go
Just
on.
because I don't
No,
want,
it's all right.
because we're
No,
short
it's
on
all
time.
right. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
my question is, if you open the Quran and make your own interpretations based on logic, this is your methodology. What do you need the Khalifa to? Why do you need him to interpret the Quran?
Oh, yeah, because even like among, okay, so you could ask the question to all Muslims, like, how comes there's one Quran and so many different interpretations and so many very different attitudes to the Quran? Some people are very violent and some people are not very peaceful. Some people are very peaceful. How does that happen? So people can misunderstand the Quran,
Yeah,
or they focus too much on slightly wrong ideas, and you got a Khalifa who's like a judge or an adjudicator. It's like,
yeah,
okay, you guys have gone slightly wrong. You're ignoring this fact and that fact.
right.
This is,
So he
you know,
would
so it
correct you
helps.
if you went wrong in your interpretation.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we've obviously got so many books and so many things in writing that you don't always have to do that. But sometimes people, is one thing is the interpretation, but also the attitude. Sometimes we become too selfish or something, and he said, "Come, like focus on this. I've noticed this in the community. You guys need to focus on being more helpful in this way or that way." There's so
Yeah.
many things that it's like, why do you need a dad in a family? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
You do you know what I mean? You always need guidance and direction. Why do we need prophets? You know, all this kind of stuff. You could go to the times of Moses. Why did you need Jesus if you got the religion there already? Right?
Yeah. No, I understand. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one thing. Um, so the Khalifa is, I think that's a very interesting point
Okay.
in terms of
Well,
structure and
if I
understanding. Yeah.
can,
Yeah, go
yeah.
on.
So I mean, there's plenty of scholars who have millions of leaders within Sunni Islam. So I think you saying this is unique to Ahmadi Islam is untrue.
So, I
Just
mean,
look at
do you have a
some of
unique,
the
do you have a,
Sufi
do you have an
tariqas.
international leader or something
If
that
you
you
look at
follow?
some of the Sufi tariqas, there are certain scholars who have a following, of millions, absolutely millions, international. Yeah, absolutely.
So there might be a following that you might
And they
listen to
give
on
bay'ah as
YouTube.
well, by the way. They give bay'ah as well, because I think you mentioned that.
Oh, I don't know if I mentioned like Bayar
Well,
as
it
in
was
people
implied,
you.
I think.
So Bayar means, just for the non-Muslims,
Yeah.
like when you accept allegiance on.
Pledge
Yeah, I mean, so
allegiance, yeah.
pledge allegiance, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is
Okay.
essentially what you guys have done with your scholar, right? My point is the same exists within Sunni Islam. It's
So I
just that
wouldn't.
there's not one
Yeah.
Individual. But again, we're talking about
It's not the
maybe two
same
billion
level
people.
of leadership. So, like,
Okay.
let's say you follow somebody on YouTube, right? And you go, "Oh, that guy
Mm.
makes sense," but you don't like listen to his orders and pay this amount of money, and you don't have a detailed infrastructure and a week by week basis. This is happening.
Well,
Do you know what I mean?
We have Islam. We don't. Islam doesn't mandate anything beyond Islam. Sounds like a silly statement, but it
No,
doesn't
okay.
require someone to tell us what to do, what day to do, what time to do something on a certain day. That isn't already mandated. And those scholars, those people, those leaders will, they will talk about, your 5 daily prayers, for example. Make sure you're paying your zakats and how to calculate, for example. So absolutely, they do. I
Okay.
don't see how that's massively different from your leader in
I mean,
principle.
yeah. So, I mean, I think I've explained that, but let me ask you a different way.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think the right thing is to have a Khalifa, like we had straight after Prophet Muhammad?
Yeah, as far
Wouldn't
as
that be
as
right?
to my limited knowledge, um, yeah, it's more beneficial than not, and they ought to be a leader of the Muslims.
Cool. So what would be the point of that? What's the point if, like, we know that that's the tradition, that's
It's
how
governing
Islam
with
started.
Islamic law and living under an Islamic society, isn't it? As far as I'm aware, again. Yeah.
Okay. So would you say primarily a Khalifa is a political leader or a spiritual leader?
A Khalifa
What do
is a
you think it
spiritual
should
leader.
be? Yeah, because Islam's a religion,
I
it's a
think the two are
spiritual thing.
intertwined, you know. You can't govern spirituality necessarily, you know. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Here
that's
I'm going off just
yeah, go on.
my limited understanding here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're like you're trying to be like average Joe. You might be more than that, who knows? But we're just kind of having that kind of level of
Sure, yeah, yeah.
conversation, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's great. I think my target audience is the average person, not somebody who's trying to be super academic or something and trying to be clever.
Yeah.
Like I want the average person to benefit and make their lives better. That's the real focus, right?
Sure,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's not just like a random discussion, hopefully, where we're just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
debating random stuff. It's like,
Got you, yeah.
okay, how can we make the world a better place? Well, I think one thing is unity, community, and stuff like that.
Yeah, I
How do you
agree, yeah.
get community? How do you get a living community? You've got to have unity. You have to have a clear leadership. And it's really
Mm-hmm.
useful having this thing called a Khalifa, which is how Islam started after Prophet Muhammad. Even Prophet Muhammad himself was a leader. You didn't have 10 prophets at the same time. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It was Prophet Muhammad. And the leadership is really important in Islam, you
Yeah,
know,
agreed,
and
yeah, of course.
spiritual leadership is really important in Islam. So
Yeah.
what you say, why do you need spiritual leadership if you've got the Quran? Like you had
No, I'm
Abu
not saying
Bakr.
that. I've not said that.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what you were saying. That
No, I'm just saying you would struggle to mandate spirituality and how each person, you know, spiritually connects, you know.
sure.
You can be guided, you can't be
Yeah,
forced. You can't
yeah,
implement
exactly. That's
laws
not the
on that,
point.
you know.
But that's the
Yeah,
same
that's
reason
the only
why I
thing I
have.
was saying.
That's the same reason why you have a prophet. You don't mandate anything. There's no, like the Quran says, there's no compulsion in matters of religion anyway, right?
Mm.
You can't force people in religion anyway. So it's never a case of mandating something. But does that mean you don't need a spiritual leader? That would be wrong as well, because why would you have prophets? Why did you have Prophet Muhammad? Well, he didn't force or mandate anything. He just said, this is what you can do. Okay, if you want to join this army, you should. Like he would ask people, do you want to join the army? Are you sure about this? Do you know what I mean? Like nobody was forced to do anything in Islam because the
Yeah, agreed,
Quran
yeah.
literally tells you that. So I suppose that's one area. I don't want to get bogged down into one area.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
So let's say the Khalifa, the unity community thing. That's
Oh,
an
we agree that this is beneficial, yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, another thing that I thought might be interesting, I don't know if it's interesting, is like what's the support for believing in Ahmadi Muslims, isn't it? Like you could just have these random discussions, but what's the support for believing in? I mean, I think one support already is that we're the only people with a Khalifa, so we're getting special treatment by.
I don't agree with that, but yeah,
Okay, I would
let's
say
skip past it. I've made my
yeah,
points for why I don't agree. Because I
yeah,
think you can
sure.
find the equivalent within Sunni Islam. But as you said, let's not get bogged down. We can revisit maybe in the future. But yeah, if you carry on from there,
Sure.
we can
So
agree to
another
disagree.
one is like we've got lots of signs that
What
we're the truth.
signs?
So for example, have you heard of the eclipse of the sun and the moon prophecy?
Uh, no, I don't think so.
Vaguely. Okay, so there's a
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
there's a very specific prophecy written in Hadith, right, about the eclipse of the sun and the moon on very specific days within the month of Ramadan. So in one month of Ramadan, you'd have the eclipse of the sun and then also the eclipse of the moon on another day and another specific day. And I can show that in the screen, right? And it's
Which
very
hadith?
interesting.
Which hadith are these? Just off the top of your head, if you know.
Yeah,
Or the
so
names.
it's in a book called Sunan al Darqutni Kitab al
Okay.
Adain, whatever, right? So it's
Okay,
very
sure. Yeah.
interesting how the what's it called, the rest of the Muslims respond to it, because I think it's perfect in it.
Okay.
So I could put it on the screen, I suppose. Maybe it's worth putting on the screen quickly. Whoops, I'm pressing
Yeah,
the
yeah.
wrong button.
Well, carry on. Yeah, you're making your point.
Yeah, what have I? shared. Oh, that's the right one. Good. Okay. So I'll zoom in really quickly, a little bit, just to give you people a bit of a reference.
Yeah.
Okay. So for our Mahdi, so there's two important people are supposed to come in the last stages of, let's say, humanity. Let's say,
Yeah.
um, one is called the Mahdi, one is called the Second Coming of Jesus. We say
Yeah.
Promised Messiah to be short. Okay. There are two signs which never appeared since the creation of the heavens and the earth. Namely, the moon
Mm.
will be eclipsed on the first night in Ramadan, i.e., the first of the nights which lunar eclipse is possible, and the sun will be eclipsed on the middle day.
Yeah.
Okay, and these signs have not appeared since God created the heavens and the earth, right? Now, here's
Mm.
the interesting thing. So, even though this prophecy has been known for like over 1,000 years, right?
Mm.
The Sunni response is it's a fake, which is great. Why is it great? Because they're not denying that it exists. What
Mm.
they're saying is, here's the interesting why it's great. Okay,
Right.
they're
Okay.
essentially saying there's a fake prophecy and an
Mm.
amazing fake prophecy. Eclipse. You can't
Right.
make the sun and the moon eclipse for you on the month of Ramadan, right? Like
I
if you said
mean,
that'd be hard to do, right? Yeah, making it happen, right?
sure. Yeah.
So, so this thing happened, and the reason why it's I mean, another reason why it's fantastic is because you can
Yeah.
Google it. On the I've got links to. It's a scientific phenomenon. You can get NASA and whoever to show you that it
Yeah. Yeah.
happened.
Sure. Yeah.
So, but the thing is, to say it's fake, what that
Yeah.
means is that somebody made up a prophecy, a liar made up a prophecy,
Mm.
and it got fulfilled for a prophet who was also a liar, a fake prophet. Like
Mm.
God enabled these crazy two things to happen: a lying prophecy or a prophecy from a liar for a
So,
liar.
can I just
Why would God do
interject
that?
because
Yeah,
I don't know much about any of this, so I there's almost no point
just
because
hypothetical.
I'm not going to
Just
rebuttal. But I have a question.
Okay. Yeah, go on.
So, so your Ghulam Mirza,
Mirza
right?
Ghulam Ahmed. Yeah,
Mirza Ghulam Ahmed is one individual.
yeah,
Yeah, and you said the prophecy, the hadith speak about two, the Mahdi and Isa alayhis salam returning,
yeah.
and he's both of them.
Yeah, they you cannot have Jesus physically coming back. No prophet has ever physically come back, and even there are precedents when
But the hadith
prophet.
have state his name, right? You believe. So these are
Mhm.
three different people now.
No.
That's
Oh,
what it
you're
sounds
saying
like.
Mirza Ghulam Ahmed is separate from the Mahdi, separate? No, but there's one person, Mirza
The
Ghulam
hadith
Ahmed.
you quoted, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
The hadith you spoke about here were stated Isa alayhis salam coming back, and this also stated it spoke about the Mahdi as being two individuals, right?
So the hadith that I quoted was regarding the Mahdi. Yeah,
Yeah. But I think you
sure.
mentioned before
Yeah, so I'll quickly explain.
Jesus for the non-Muslim audience being Isa alayhis salam and the Mahdi are two separate entities.
Sure, they're supposed to come at the same time,
There's two
right?
separate entities though, two different
Okay,
people.
so I'll give my quick answer, and
Yeah, sure,
then
yeah.
we could turn into a discussion about it if you want. Um,
Well, I'm just curious
but
because I
Oh
don't know
yeah, the
the
quick.
chain of
Let me give you the
narration
quick
with all of
answer.
this and
Let me
whatnot.
give you the
Yeah,
quick
yeah, come
answer.
on.
The quick
Yeah, yeah,
answer is
yeah.
there's one person called Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, and he is the spiritual second coming of Jesus because no
Okay.
person ever comes back floating from the sky. This is against the teachings of the Quran itself. We can go into that.
Mm.
Okay, and he's dead according to the Quran as well. We can go into that. Jesus is dead, so there's no way he's
I
coming
don't
back
agree with
anyway.
that, but okay.
Sure, of
Yeah,
course you don't agree. Yeah, otherwise
yeah,
you'd be already an Ahmadi Muslim. I'm just stating,
yeah, 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 sure, yeah.
my premises, and
Yeah,
I
of
can
course,
give
of course.
evidence
Yeah, yeah.
for it. Yeah.
I understand. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so basically, it never happens that a prophet comes flying back. Even at the time of Jesus, The Jews said the same thing. They said, you cannot be the Messiah because before you, Elijah is supposed to be coming down from the sky. And Jesus said in the Bible, I mean, you might not accept this because it's in the Bible, but just to give you, there's a precedence. You know, like in law, you say like, this has happened before,
I
therefore,
understand. Yeah,
you know what I mean? So like,
principle. Yeah.
and then there's a principle, let's say, right? So Jesus said that was John the Baptist. He was Elijah. It's like, oh, what? So they're spiritual. These are spiritual terms. It never
So,
happened. Yeah.
okay, just tell me from the Quran and so on, from our literature, where are you getting this idea that mirrors are, respectfully, sorry, I don't mean to sound rude,
Yeah,
that
sure. That's his name.
mirrors are, is it okay to you just use
Oh, is
that
that
name?
Mirza? That's fine. That's easy to remember,
Mirza, yeah?
isn't it? One
Yeah,
name.
that's like the one that, yeah, I
Yeah,
seem to
yeah.
remember. That Mirza is going to be, uh, or that that Isa alayhi salam's return is that of a spiritual nature. Where have you got
Sure,
that from?
sure. Okay, let's just grab that really quickly. So,
And then also tell me how this can be uh, uh, at the same time simultaneously also the Mahdi.
sure. Let's
I
just
think
do that.
I think that's problematic saying that, to be honest.
Yeah, sure, of course, of course. Let's put it simply. There's millions of problems to be solved. Don't worry, that's all right. This is the point. This
No, but
discussion
these
may
are
be boring.
fundamental to your belief, though.
Yeah. What I'm saying
I
is,
don't.
there's millions of problems because there's so many. We're having a discussion like from zero, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
what do you know about Ahmadi Muslim? Not really much, right? If you've never really debated something, of course, everything's going to be problematic in the beginning, so that's fine, no problem at all.
Okay.
Let me just quickly. Have I got it before?
So this
Oh,
website
is
as
it
well, out
on?
of curiosity, this is who's
Yeah,
this? Who are these
this
translations by?
Ahmadi Muslims. Yeah, so you can
Yeah.
we can dispute the translations as well and all this kind of stuff as part of a discussion, right?
No, I didn't realize it was a separate sort of translation. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
very similar. I don't
there's
know.
so many translations out there,
Yeah,
so we
I'm
can always
aware. Yeah,
compare
yeah.
translations. Yeah.
Sure.
I'm just trying to find go back heels. Basically, there was this verse of the Quran that is really well known because it was recited by the first Khalifa to tell people that Prophet Muhammad had actually died. Gone back, messengers. Oh, maybe the word messengers. I think it was messengers. Yeah, messengers rather than prophet. Subtle things. Is it? Yeah, I'm sharing screen, so hopefully you're not bored too
Yeah.
much. Messages have died before. Where is it? I thought it'd come up.
What is
Oh,
the
yes,
ayah?
here it is. Yes. So, okay. So basically, I'm proving that, first of all, it has to be metaphorical, Jesus coming back. That would make it easier. So you get
Spiritual.
the
Yes. Okay. Same
yeah.
thing.
So
Sure.
look, and Muhammad is only a messenger. Verily, all messengers had passed away before him. Okay.
Okay.
You could dispute the translation, but this is where I'm
Oh
getting
yeah.
it from, right?
Sure.
Okay. So I've always obviously debated all these things so many times before in so many ways, not only one verse of the Quran, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So was Jesus before Prophet Muhammad? Did he live before Prophet Muhammad? Like come be in existence?
Yeah. You did. Yeah.
So he was one of the messengers before Prophet Muhammad, right? And therefore they'd all passed away.
Yeah.
So and then
I'm not going to argue that with this particular ayat because this is what
yeah,
I won't get into because there's other. It's well above my pay grade, and
that's
there
fine.
are
But at
other
least you know
verses
where
that
I'm
talk
getting it
about
from.
they killed
Yeah,
him not and so on. My
yeah.
question is, how have you got this understanding that Isa alayhi salam coming back is spiritual and not literal? That was all the
So if
question.
he's
And
dead,
how do you?
did you
Yeah,
see my answer? Because if he's dead, he has to
if
be
he's dead,
spiritual. Then
right?
it has to be
Okay, so
spiritual second coming.
it's based on the fact that he's dead, right? Okay,
Yeah, that and
okay.
other things like
And how do you separate? How do you bring this entity together with the Mahdi? Because there's hadith talking about the Mahdi and Isa Islam separately.
okay.
Yeah.
So if you can be a spiritual second coming of Jesus,
Mm.
right, while still being So if Mirza Ghulam
There's
Ahmad
hadith
is
that talk about them as separate entities. End of time hadith. I don't have them off the top of my head.
There's even a hadith that says there's no Mahdi except for the Messiah. There's except for Isa. There's even,
Okay.
but it's not well known. So there's lots of evidence to say they're one and the same person. But it's very
Okay.
easy once you accept there's a spiritual second coming. Then it's very easy to be special. He's also the spiritual second coming of Buddha, Krishna, because they all said they would come in the latter days.
Okay. Are you
Yeah.
certain about that? Yeah.
It makes sense and it's reasonable. And the reason why it's very reasonable is because Islam was supposed to be, well, it's firstly the first and only international religion. All the other religions were tribal, right? Belonging to one particular area. So Islam had to bring everybody together in the latter days. And by being the second coming of all these different prophets, so saying this, like, follow me, this is, you were all destined to become one people. The whole world was destined to become one people. So it's not really a big deal.
I'm just conscious of time, so I'll try and just jump across.
Yeah, you know what? Lead the way. I want it to be your thing as much as possible.
Yeah.
I think I
Well,
kind
I'm
of
just curious.
yeah.
With
I'll
what
give
you're saying.
short answers to whatever you want to say.
Yeah, sure. So, what is the Ahmadi idea? What is the purpose of the Mahdi?
Fantastic. The revival of true Islam.
Okay, and what would that entail?
Bringing peaceful people back to a peaceful way. Okay, so Prophet Muhammad said, whatever happened to the Jews will happen to the Muslims. They started the same way, one law, one God, okay, and then they started getting to factions. There's even a prophecy about that. So getting them out of their factions, getting them back to unity, back to peacefulness.
Okay,
and you might say,
point taken.
Yeah, that's it. Cool. I'll try to keep my answers short. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rude.
No. I said I'll be short.
Do you consider the Sunni and Shia Muslims as Muslims?
Yes.
Do you consider there to be like 2 billion odd Muslims in the world?
I think so. Something like that. Yeah.
You know, basically, you don't take anyone out of the fold. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mirza, who came about, was it in the 1900s ish?
Yeah. Early. Yeah. 18 end of 1800s. Yeah.
So his job was, respectfully, sorry, to revive Islam and bring people back to the. Has he achieved that with less than 1% of the Muslim population actually following him and acknowledging him?
I don't think so. I think we're about 0.2%. So you might be saying, has he, like, how comes he hasn't done that?
That sounds like a failure to me.
Sure, exactly. So it's another great question, right? So you can say similar things about Prophet Muhammad. You can say similar things about Jesus. Okay, so what was Prophet Muhammad's job? He was supposed to unite all of the world, right? Has he united?
Yeah, he also he clearly he's clearly stated that there are many amongst you who won't accept Islam. But this is the thing, you can't measure the Prophet ﷺ the same as what you've highlighted here, because the Prophet ﷺ came with Islam for those who choose to follow Islam. What you just highlighted with Mirza, respectfully, I feel a bit bad just saying the name like that, I don't mean to be rude.
That's all right.
Is to revive Islam, so restore Islam back, putting it back as one, where you have less than 1% actually following him and acknowledging him.
No, I think it's a great question.
Who ridicule him, actually.
That's fine. Ridicule. I mean, that's even in the Quran. Like, Prophet Muhammad was ridiculed. There's the Quran says there's no prophet that wasn't ridiculed, right? So
but I'm talking about by Muslims.
Oh yeah,
you'll have Muslims who ridicule Mirza. You won't have Muslims who ridicule Prophet. Anyway, put that aside. Just put that aside.
You can't put it aside. You have to make a point, then I'll respond to it. Otherwise, you make a point and then
No, I just meant it will end up somewhere.
No, I'm saying
no.
I'm giving like my 10-second answers. The Jews, most of the Jews ridiculed Jesus. End of argument.
Okay, but they don't follow him.
I know.
They're not part of that. No, but Mirza.
I think you're not comparing like with like.
No, because I don't think it's like for like, because the
Okay.
Prophet came to guide
Yeah.
people, right?
Yes. Jesus
So
came
the
to guide
Prophet,
people.
so the Prophet ﷺ, for example, came to guide those who would follow his teachings. Yeah,
All of
not
humanity he came to guide.
all of
Yes.
humanity, non-Muslims,
Yeah.
to this truth, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have this group now. Now the Mahdi is supposed to come, from what you said earlier, to reform and correct and bring everyone within the group
What?
together.
No, no. All of humanity. All the same job as Prophet Muhammad.
Or all of humanity, sure,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but the group of the body of Muslims that exists, bringing them together under this, umbrella.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah. What I'm
Same
saying
job
is,
as Jesus. So just think about Jesus and then how do you know how successful Jesus was after 300 years?
sorry, my point
Yeah.
is I don't mean to, because I think we're like not getting each other's points.
Oh,
It
okay,
could be
go on.
me
Okay.
misunderstanding, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
So the Prophet ﷺ, he came to guide humanity. Yeah,
Yeah.
to bring people to Islam. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Muslims at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, people who accepted Islam were under the wing of Islam, under the banner of Islam. They were Muslims,
Mm. Yeah.
right? The Mahdi Mirza that you've mentioned, uh, his job was, what you've said is also to bring more, people under the fold, but also to reform the existing Muslims.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying he has failed on that.
Okay, why?
Yeah,
Although I think go on
because
it's
as
a
you
small
said, there's
number.
like 0.2% of Muslims who even acknowledge him or accept him.
Ready for the answer?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, of
Okay,
course.
so
I was just trying to
Jesus,
make sure I'm making the clear point. Yeah.
that's fine, that's fine. Okay, Jesus was far less successful, okay, in terms of, after 300 years, so we've been around for 100 years, for
Yeah.
300 years, they'd only reached like 30 odd countries,
Mm.
right? We're all over the world already, okay? So you do,
The
I tell you,
tasks were
I'll
not the
tell you
same.
I
The
tell you the
objectives were not
problem.
the same.
I'll tell you the basic problem that Sunni
Yeah, yeah.
Muslims are falling prey to, which is
Okay. Yeah.
that they think things happen magically, that there'll be a Mahdi and bang, everybody would accept.
It's
Because
been
that's
over 100
actually,
years, hasn't it?
that's
Like 100 years.
sure, yeah, sure. So this is the misunderstanding of how spirituality works. First of all, it's
Okay.
not enforced on people. There's some people,
Yeah, of
Sunni
course.
Muslims, some Sunni Muslims believe that when the Mahdi and Jesus comes, the Christians, the non-believers will be given a choice. Either they will be killed or they would have to accept Islam. That's a lot of,
Okay.
there are scholars who
I've
believe
not
that,
heard
right?
that personally,
Yeah,
but I'll let that. Yeah, sure.
so okay, let me put it this way. So when
Yeah.
do you believe that Jesus and Prophet the Mahdi, sorry, will come literally at the end times, like really like 2 days before the
Yeah, these are
whole
like
world
end
ends?
of times hadith. Yeah.
Yeah, like the last day before the end world and the
Not
world
literally
ends.
the last day, but
But
like a
maybe a
sign
few
of
days
major
before?
signs of the end of times. Yeah.
Yeah, but what do you mean by end of times? What do you mean?
Well, it's relative. I don't know
1 week before the end
specifically.
of times?
No, I don't think there's specificity. Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
it's
As
pretty
far as
much
I
the end of
understand.
times, right? So there's not much time to mess around. Okay, so you either believe or you're. A lot of people say that the Mahdi will kill, or was it Jesus will kill everybody else? Yeah, there'll be a bloody Mahdi.
It's those who actively disbelieve, those who
Right,
know it to be true,
exactly.
and
That's
yeah.
exactly what I said
No,
before.
I
If you
don't know about
disbelieve,
kill the way you're talking though. We're
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah,
about like the Dajjal, the Antichrist,
yeah.
and satanic followers and stuff. This is
Hmm.
different to like the average like Christian or Jew or
Yeah.
whatever, or non-believer or whatever.
Yeah, sure. Anyway, so my point
Okay, yeah,
is
sure.
that all
Yeah.
these different religions, they actually take a really long time. If you go back historically, even Islam has taken a very
Mm.
long time to get where it is, right? So you have to try to have a very concrete idea of what
Mm.
a success criteria. What is
Yeah, yeah,
success, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then measure Ahmadiyya, Islam, Ahmadiyya, what I see is
Yeah.
true Islam, just plain Islam, really. Okay,
Agreed.
by
Okay, go
that
on.
criteria. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
So think of
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
criteria.
Yeah, no, okay, right. The criteria of the Prophet ﷺ and the criteria of Mirza are different. Do you agree with that?
So then you just
Do
comparing
we
them.
agree with that point?
No, I don't. I
So
think they're both religions. They're both
the Prophet
prophet.
ﷺ didn't come
Yeah.
to reform Islam. He came to establish Islam, didn't he?
Wow. He came to reform people. But anyway, I think
Yeah. No,
I think we
okay.
can. Yeah.
Sorry if
Yeah.
you're like, I don't mean to. I just
No,
don't agree with what you're
I don't
saying.
know. We're always in a I know, like we're already having such a we're having such an interesting conversation, and there's
Mm.
only 9 minutes left. Just what I'm.
Yeah, yeah.
So what I mean to say is like I feel like we're not really getting anywhere on that
Okay, yeah,
particular
fine.
point.
Well, people are,
And
yeah, can
just
listen.
keep
Whatever.
chugging
We
stuff
can
at me, and
revisit
I'll
it
keep
in the
trying to.
future. Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe we'll focus on one tiny thing next time. But I think it's good right
Mm.
now. What we're doing is really good. Like you just
Mm.
keep throwing stuff at me. I'll keep trying to give the shortest possible answers. Go on.
No, I mean I don't have anything specific other than I think we kind of went
Okay,
over the
that's good.
points we disagreed on previously.
Okay, cool. I'm just
Uh,
trying to look through the
yeah,
other
sure. Yeah, if you got
things
anything
you
written down, yeah.
said. Okay, what do you think about love for all, hatred for none? This idea, because this is what
Oh,
Ahmadi Muslim.
where's
Have
it
you ever
coming
heard of that?
from?
Have you ever heard of that phrase that Ahmadi
As a
Muslims say?
general phrase. I didn't
Yeah,
know it's associated to Ahmadi Muslims. No.
yeah, but I mean that's what we're quite very well known for internationally. But anyway, what do you think about that phrase?
Love for all, hatred for none. It's a very general phrase. Yeah, sure.
So you don't disagree with it? That kind of.
Well, it's just a general phrase. Obviously,
Do you
you're not
think
going to
it's
apply
in
that to
line?
Hitler,
No.
right?
Okay. Let me. Oh yeah. Okay.
You love Hitler
So
as well.
we love everybody. Everybody's messed up in their own. I'll give you an example.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
From
This is a
Prophet
very
Muhammad.
general thing, so I'm struggling with it. Yeah.
Okay. So okay. First. Okay. So what I'm going to ask you eventually, but
Yeah.
I'll quote this or paraphrase this
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
saying of Prophet Muhammad to give you
Sure.
an idea of like how can you love Hitler? How can you love whatever, right? Okay. Um, there was a person who murdered 99 people. Ever heard of
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
saying of
Yeah.
Prophet Muhammad,
I've come
right?
across these. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this person who murdered 99 people, he went to a religious scholar and said, look, I've done so much bad sin. Is there any
Yeah.
hope for me? And the religious
Yeah.
scholar said, no. And he said, oh, in that case, I'll kill you as well then. And he
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
up to 100. Then he went to
Yeah.
the next guy, and the next guy was a bit smarter.
Mm.
And he said, you know what? All you have to do is you have to get to this city of heaven.
Yeah.
Okay, so he went. Okay, in earnest, he went on his way to city of heaven. Right, it's all
Mm.
metaphorical, right? But it's a beautiful story in itself, right? Because when with the conclusion, so he's walking, and then he's getting really tired, and he's crawling, and then in his last breath, he tries his best, but he I think he doesn't get to even halfway, right?
Yeah.
And then the angels are disputing between themselves, like, where should he go? Should he go to heaven? Should he go to hell?
I
And
do
then
know
God,
this. I'm assuming you're telling it for the viewers.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
telling it
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
viewers. Yeah,
Cool.
so it's good that you know it, so the viewers know that it's a real thing if they're not Muslims, right?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then God says, whichever one he's closest to, make him go to that. So if he's closer to the
Yeah.
city of heaven, he goes to heaven. If he's, and then God said the the angels get their metaphorical measuring tapes out, okay, and God makes it so that he changes the distance so that he's closer to city of heaven, right?
Yeah.
This is
Yeah. Yeah.
why he's God the most merciful, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So despite people being really, really bad, God wants people to be successful as much as possible, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so like
There
what
is
I'm
a
saying is,
hellfire, though, right?
that's right. There is a hellfire, and this is another area of dispute, I suppose. I just did a video with another Sunni Muslim where I
No.
don't believe hellfire is forever. Do you believe hellfire
Sure.
is forever?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, yeah.
Sure. So, I
I've not
mean, I
looked into it
suppose,
specifically, but as far as I'm aware,
yeah. So I would say the reason why you can't believe hell is forever,
yeah.
one
Because
is
God is all just,
or it's just, but also it'll be very
all
unjust to
merciful,
punish
sorry, yeah.
infinite. Yeah, or most merciful, the most
These,
merciful. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but also logically, how can you punish infinitely for finite sins?
I would say it's beyond my understanding and quite possibly yours, I don't know.
Oh,
Logic
okay,
isn't, to me, logic isn't the pinnacle of all understanding. I mean,
sure.
describe God. What
Okay,
would
so
God look like?
let's
What
explain why
by
logic
logic?
is necessary and you have to
No, I don't
use logic.
disagree. Logic is not. I'm not saying logic is not necessary.
But you just said something slightly different to that. So
No, no.
what are you
I
saying?
said logic is not necessarily the pinnacle of understanding. I'm saying we're
So
limited in our
if we
thoughts.
were debating any one
Logic will
particular
get you
point,
so far.
sure, okay, fine.
Yeah,
But if you were debating a point,
yeah.
okay, you'd have to go for the more logical point, wouldn't you? Because
Um,
otherwise you can't distinguish between fact and fiction.
well, here's where we differ slightly. So
Yeah.
I would say logic brings me to Islam. Yeah, that which I don't understand within Islam,
Hmm.
but is verified. As in,
Hmm.
if the Prophet ﷺ said something that didn't seem logical to me, I would still follow it as long as it
Hmm.
doesn't, as long as it's verified, as long as he definitely said it, because I accept that he knows better than I do. My logic takes me to him, and at him or the Quran, I accept that okay, if there's something that doesn't quite fit my logical understanding,
Hmm.
it's like a child and a parent. A parent explains to a child has a certain level of understanding. A child knows it well enough that yeah, I can trust my parent. Parent tells them something that doesn't quite make sense to them, but they accept the parent knows better.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point. So
Yeah, so
I
I
also
don't
should have.
know. So
No, I should have
logic
also.
isn't the pinnacle of everything. It's not everything cannot be explained with logic.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You can't
Yeah,
explain everything because you don't know everything. That's fair enough. Good point. I should have said
but
before
you don't
that.
have the
Even
capacity to understand everything.
no. I think I should have said before, like my because I was trying to give the really short answer of like, why do we
Yeah,
know hell is not forever? Even though most Sunni Muslims believe hell is forever, right?
yeah.
That I know of, right? Is because the Quran also makes it quite clear that hell is not forever. So here's that logical thing that we were talking about. Like, if the Quran is there, why do we need um, people, why do we need a prophet, why do we need spiritual leaders to clarify what's right and what's wrong?
I've
Is
not
because
disputed that. I've not disputed that point.
well, okay, whatever. So the point, okay, this is my point.
Yeah.
Even though logically, if you look at the Quran, and I've had debates and it's on video, I just had it yesterday, in fact, another debate
Okay.
on hell being not forever.
Yeah.
Most Sunni Muslims dispute it. Like I said, here's a Quran. This is what the Quran says again and again
Mm,
and again. Logically, from any translation you take, you cannot
mm.
come to the conclusion that hell is forever. And yet people dispute it.
So sorry, if you have an ayat, a verse of the Quran, and it
Yeah.
states the disbelievers will abide in hell forever. The
Aha.
translation. Here's the thing. We're talking about translation as well. This is where
Yeah.
we differ in principle.
I could go
You
into that in 1 second, probably give a really short answer.
okay?
Like
Go on.
if
Throw
you
it out there.
compare the Quran compares heaven and hell side by side lots of times, right? Okay, and people mistranslate something as being forever. Okay, whereas in that same verse, it will
Mm.
say that in one example, when it's comparing them side by side, it will say supposedly forever, and then the other verse when it's referring to heaven it'll be saying this is going to be going on forever, and it will end with and God will not stop this gift. Like what I mean to say is it doesn't make sense to claim, and we can go into lexicons, which is like the deep dictionaries, right?
Mm.
And they will tell you that it doesn't have to mean forever, right?
Are you
So the
talking
verse.
about the translation of the Quran in English?
So, so I'm saying that people might want to believe that the translation means forever, but
Mm.
the end of that same verse tells you that it does not mean forever
But
because
the
it talks about a gift not ending. So if it already was true that it is
mm.
forever,
I
then there's
understand
no
the
need
point.
to say it's forever
Yeah,
afterwards.
yeah. Okay,
Do you know what
sure.
I mean? It doesn't make
But
sense.
you have made this assessment based on English translation, is that right?
Based on my study of the Arabic, yes.
Do you speak Arabic?
My wife speaks Arabic. Lots of Ahmadi speak
Do you
Arabic.
speak fluent Arabic, Fusha Arabic, like Quranic Arabic? Because it's not
No, I
even
don't.
stated it.
But yeah,
So really, so
that's not really an
translations are
argument.
not. No,
But
no,
then how
it's
can my
not.
wife
It's
understand? How
no,
can
one
my
second.
mother-in-law's got
Sorry.
a PhD in Arabic understand? It's
No,
not an argument.
sorry.
Yeah, go
I'm
on.
not
Go on.
making an argument to say you're
Yeah.
wrong.
Oh, okay.
I'm just criticizing the methodology you're using to come to this conclusion, and thus the conclusion may be wrong. Is what I'm saying. I'm not. I've not studied Arabic, but I know enough to know that you cannot translate each and every word perfectly.
But my mother-in-law's got a PhD in Arabic, and she's an Arab. Like, there's loads of situations, people like that, and I'm using the experts who got the official, the dictionaries
Yeah,
of
what
the.
I'd have to. Well,
So,
what you've said
yeah.
so far is. I mean, okay, so you've sat down with experts in
The
Quranic
experts are
Arabic.
people who write the Quranic Arabic, yeah, who
Okay,
collect all the meanings of the words.
they've told you.
It's not they. Is this called a lexicon? Lane's lexicon, for
Right,
example.
right. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, okay. We can leave that one there as well. My
yeah,
only point is my point here,
yeah.
right here is as far as you know, my stance is you cannot open an English translation of the Quran and decide, oh, this word is used here, this word is used here. These are like negatories, for example. I mean, you can't translate the word Alhamdulillah perfectly into English, for example.
Hmm.
Hamd, as far as I'm aware, is praise and
Yeah,
thanks. If you praise
mm,
someone, you're not thanking
yeah,
them. If you thank them, you're not praising them. So if someone reads the translation of Alhamdulillah,
yeah,
one person will write all praises to Allah, or
yeah.
praises to God. Another person will write all thanks. And then the next verse is talking about something that, it's a very tricky subject to
So,
get
what
into.
is the point you're making? Are you saying that you
The
cannot
point
make
I
any
make
conclusive arguments based on the Quran?
the point I'm making is you have to be
Yeah.
very careful when you're making conclusive arguments
Oh, I've
based
been
on
been very, very careful.
based on the translation, the
No, not just
limited
based on translation.
translation. But you said it's
I've I've
English. These are
done
English
I've
translations
done
you're
an
basing it on.
analysis of the verses, logical analysis that nobody has
Mm.
been able to escape. That I've debated.
And you've done that using what people who
The
have studied
in-depth
Arabic to a
dictionaries,
PhD level.
it's probably the top lexicons that people use. Like there's a famous lexicon called Lane's.
Okay. Well, I've made the point I think I wanted
Yeah,
to make,
yeah, exactly. So
and it's probably a
exactly.
longer discussion.
Yeah, yeah, of
Yeah.
course. So it's good.
Just to
No,
summarize, I'm just saying I don't think
yeah,
you can just open. This is my criticism. What you do here as well. I don't
yeah,
think you can just open the Quran, look at an English translation, and come up with purely use pure logic, your logic, an individual's logic, and derive meaning and so on. I think
sure.
that's problematic. That is
It's
problematic.
not problematic, really. It shouldn't
That's
be
my
problematic.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Because, like, if I give an argument based on the Quran and based on
Mm.
what we agree it says, right? Or
No,
not
but
even
who are
agree what
we?
it says.
What do you
So
mean we
if I
agree?
say, if we say, like, your claim, if I say to you, let's have a logical discussion,
Yeah.
okay, and I give an argument that you cannot counter based on what you're saying it says, then you should agree with me. That's what I'm saying. And I'm saying you'll be stuck on the same point that other people I've debated have come to, and I've given a taste of that already. I said, look,
Mm.
this can't mean the word Khalid, for example, that's my name,
Yeah,
used
sure.
to mean forever. Okay, cannot mean forever because later in the same verse it says, and this is forever. It
Send
doesn't
me
make
this.
sense.
Send me this sort of research you done. I'll be
Yeah,
interested in
great.
looking at it.
So I'll send you the
But
link to the
in
video where I
response to
debated it,
what you
but also
just,
I give a whole document with all the
yeah,
details.
yeah. In
Yeah,
response to what you just said,
yeah.
yeah, a response may be, well, I don't have an answer, but that doesn't mean you're right.
Sure. So, like for example, imagine
You
I
said
don't want
yourself
to make.
you don't speak the language, so
y-
that in and of itself
I've
is
already
quite a
countered the
problem.
argument lots of times.
No, to be honest, if I had a book
But you
in
like? I've already
Italian.
told you there's Ahmadi Muslims who are Arabs and they you can't use that argument for everybody.
Okay, so this, no, but you're talking about your research. My thing is, you're
No,
saying
but
this is
my
your
research is
research.
agreed upon by lots of Arabs who are also Ahmadi Muslim. It's not like I have. Oh, it's not like my separate research. This is
If your
based on what
Khalifa
Ahmadi
has
understand.
produced this,
Sure,
and he speaks fluent Arabic, and you have to be at a certain level to conduct this kind of research. Is my point. I don't speak Italian. If I opened a book in Italian and said, "Look, my cousin's going to translate this word for me and that word," and it's
sure.
not watertight. Yeah,
Anyway, so
yeah, but yeah,
yeah, we made. I mean, this is fine. So we made
yeah,
different arguments. How would
yeah.
you like to round off this little conversation? The time
However
flew.
you
I
wish,
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you? What did you get from it? I don't know. Do you
I think
wanna?
yeah. Well, I think we've touched on some interesting points actually. Some
Yeah.
interesting points of difference. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's been good to sort of to be questioned a bit, pushed back a bit, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can always watch the videos back and say, does that make sense? What who said? And I let people who ever watched it. I think it's great. I value people like yourself coming, listening, just asking your questions is fantastic. And what you've done is kind of made a space for other people to listen. They go,
Mm,
okay, there were two different arguments. That's why I always pick people who have different opinions to myself, right?
mm,
Two different arguments, and then people can go, which one, where's the truth? What makes more sense? Do you know what I mean? And that's it. So
mm,
that's why I don't have to say, you've got to listen to me. Do you know what I mean? Like as far as I know, I gave all the answer to all the questions already, but cool.
mm.
All right. So anyway, so hopefully we're gonna have more conversations in the future. I'm glad that
Yeah, I'm
we've
down.
been
Yeah,
put in contact. And thank you very much. Appreciate your time. It's gonna end the
yeah. Likewise.
stream.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go
go
on.
on.
You wanna say last few words before the end
No, it
stream?
was not relative to this
Oh, okay.
to the
I'll just
stream.
send the
Yeah,
stream and then you can just tell me whatever you want.
yeah, cool.